Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and we are here with another Sunday sew along. We've got a, I've got hair in my mouth. We've got a little bit of kind of the way I have been doing sew alongs in the past. I've been doing a few sew alongs for Cashmerette here and there, and those have, I've been releasing all those parts in one fell swoop per Cashmerette's request. But typically around here when I'm doing sew alongs just on my channel, I break things up and release a part each week, which is what we will be doing for this sew along. All right, we are going to be making over the next couple of weeks. Today we are just going to be going over supplies. I'm using a border print. We'll talk about that, showing you how I'm cutting things out and that sort of thing, and then going over all the things that you need, what needs to be interfaced and all that kind of stuff as well. So this is just your chance to collect everything that you want to use for it, and then next week we will dive right in and start sewing. As a reminder, I will be sewing on my Bernina 770. This is a machine that is on loan to me from University of Sewing. I am one of their ambassadors, so I will be doing everything over this next sew along on the Bernina 770 QE. Yeah, this is the Quilters edition. So yes, thank you to University of Sewing for providing the machine. All right, we are making McCall's 8361. I don't know why I'm holding this up. I'll put a bigger picture up here. This is a dress for my daughter. I'm making this for her for our upcoming wedding that we are going to be attending here soon. And she requested this pattern. She loves the cutouts around the waist, which is her favorite part to show off on her figure. And a shirt dress is just classic, and she's got a pretty classic aesthetic as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the pattern, what we're gonna need, the view I'm making, all that good stuff. So this pattern comes with 3 views, which as far as I can tell, it's a little difference in skirt length, but mostly it is sleeves. So view B has like a longer straight sleeve, C is a shorter straight sleeve, and then A is the nice, floofy, bigger sleeves. We are making straight view A. A lot of times I'll mix and match, different parts from different views, but we are making exactly what the model has on her. There's a nice big hem facing on this skirt. I think it's just going to give a lot of swish and something that she's really going to love, and she really enjoys those nice big sleeves as well. So we will be doing straight view A. I am making the size 10 for her. Her measurements are, she has a 36-inch full bust, but a 32-inch upper bust. 32-inch upper bust, 36-inch full bust, and a 26-inch waist and a 36-inch hip. And if you look on the sizing on the back of these, per a lot of these commercial patterns, a 36-inch bust actually puts her at a size 14, but she has a full bust. So I picked her size based off of her upper bust measurement, which is 32 inches. And that is the size 10. I also went and looked at the finished measurements on the pattern, and the size 10 with a full bust adjustment was going to be absolutely perfect and fit her really well on the waist for the amount of ease she wants. And then the skirt's a full skirt, so we didn't really need to bother with that. I mean, you've got plenty of ease in the hip of the skirt. So really we were looking at the waist measurement as well as the bust measurement. So I have done a full bust measurement or full bust adjustment on this pattern, and we'll talk about that here when we go to the cutting table. But that is the size I've made for her. Let's talk about fabric. The pattern calls for cotton blends, poplin, gingham, shirtings. So basically something with a little bit more body. You could probably do linen really easily, but something that's a little bit more bodied because you want the skirt to stand out. You don't want anything with a lot of drape because the skirt will fall in on itself. You won't get the dramatic effect of the sleeve or, the crispness of the collar. I have gone with this wonderful, it's a textured cotton. I wouldn't really call it a cotton piqué. It doesn't have any stretch to it. But it's a bottom weight, a dress, although it does have a little give to it. I take that back. But it is a border print. So you can kind of see a little bit of the border here, and it's got the white with the polka dots here at the upper size. I thought that this would be fun, and I'm going to talk you through, because this is kind of it's not a full circle skirt, but it is a rounded hem. It's got a circle hem on the bottom of the skirt, how I decided to lay this out, because that can be tricky with a border print. A lot of times border prints lend themselves a little bit better towards like a pleated skirt or a gathered skirt where you're cutting out rectangles, so you can leave that hem pretty even. The border that goes around. But because this border is very organic, it has a lot of highs and lows and that sort of thing, I think we get away with just cutting it on grain and letting the hem kind of swoosh up to the side and it being fine. So, but I did get creative with my sleeves as well as my collar and that sort of thing. So we will be showing that more at the cutting table, as I mentioned here in just a second. So any kind of structured cottons, you could use quilting. Cotton poplin is a lot of times the nicer quilting weight cottons. So this would be a good pattern for something along those lines. Any kind of cotton shirtings, just anything with a good body that kind of stands on itself. This would be beautiful. You could do it in a silk dupioni if you wanted to, as long as you're using stuff with body, if you wanted to go fancy. So that is my recommendations for fabrics. All right. Other notions that we are going to need, half of an inch elastic, which I've got right here, which this is for the, I think this is for the back of the skirt. So the back of the skirt gets, or the back of the top maybe it's the back of the top. Yes, I'm sorry. The back of the top part, because of the bodice. The back of the bodice gets pulled in with elastic. So that's what this 1/2 inch wide elastic is going to be for with that. We also need a 7-inch zipper. So this is for the skirt portion of the back, because they're only, the skirt and the top are only connected at that one little piece in the center front of the dress, because then you've got the ties that go around that kind of give a cool back effect. So the back's open from the bottom to the waist. There's a opening of back. So we just need the 7-inch zipper for the back of the skirt. So I have a 7-inch invisible zipper in white, because that is the color I'm using here. We also need a hook and eye. I don't have the hook and eye over here with me. But also, if you're making view A, you need 1-inch wide elastic for the hem of those sleeves, the puffy sleeves, to give those the body that they need. So I have 1-inch wide elastic for that. Then the pattern calls for the ties that go around the body, for those to be fabric. So there's pattern pieces for that, to make those out of fabric. But instead, we have decided to use Petersham ribbon for ours in a contrasting color that goes really well with the print. I'll show it up closer here in a minute at the cutting table. But we thought that that would be a fun little detail, and then bring out a little bit of this fuchsia pink color out of that fabric as well. So that is what we're going to be using, a inch wide Petersham ribbon instead of the ties that are included, that you make with fabric that are included with the pattern. So keep that in mind. If you wanted to do a ribbon as well, or bias tape, you could make your own ribbon with bias tape. But you don't have to just use the fabric. I'm just going to be using the pattern pieces to cut the correct length. But that is it. So that is an option if you want to do something a little different with your dress. All right, other than that, I am using Gutermann Mara 100 thread. That is my favorite all-purpose thread. I'm using mine in a white colorway. And I have a Microtex size 12 needle in my machine. That's a pretty good size for the bottom weight cotton that I'm going to be using for this dress. I'm, like I said, sewing everything on my Bernina. I'm using the regular foot, just the #1 foot on this. I do have my differential feed engaged on this, although that's not necessary. It's just a perk that comes with my machine. It just helps feed things through a little more evenly. I will disengage that when I get to the sleeve. When we get there, I like to make my feed dogs work and ease things in for me. So, and also the princess seam lines. There'll be some times where I'll be disengaging my differential feed. Differential feed is very similar to a walking foot. So it's just easing your fabric, feeding your fabric through the machine evenly, top and bottom. But I will talk about when I am disengaging and re-engaging for that. All right, guys, that is it. That is all we've got for today. Now we're going to go to well, not quite. We're going to go over to the cutting table. I'm going to show you how I cut out my border prints, and then talk through all the pieces that you're going to need so we can start sewing next week. All right, guys, as always in all of my sew along videos, if you have any questions at all, please leave them down below. I will answer those as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week for more videos, and then again next Sunday to start sewing our dress. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Okay, before we go through our pieces, I want to talk about border prints real quick. So this border print is on each of the selvage edges. I think it's just right off this right here is the selvage, which obviously when you're cutting out your pattern pieces, most of the time you want your grain line to be parallel to your selvage. However, you can get away with cutting things on the cross grain, which means your grain line on your pattern is perpendicular to your selvage edge. The cross grain's not quite as stable as the straight of grain, but it's still pretty stable and you can get away with doing that. Also want to note, these are, I don't know if this would be, I don't know that it's a full circle, but it is a curved hemline, obviously. Most of the time with border prints, it behooves you to use like a pleated skirt or a gathered skirt where you are cutting rectangles basically so that your hem is straight and then you're making the waist smaller with pleats or gathers. However, because of the nature of this border print, you know, it's irregular. It's not stripes that are going, that are straight, you know, I think, you know, it's more organic. I think I'm just going to go with it, cut it out in the cross grain, and then just have this floral, you know, it'll get a little bit less at the side seams and be a little bit heavier at center back and center front. But I think that's going to be okay and look fine. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. Now, alternatively, if you did have a circle skirt or half circle skirt or 3/4, whatever, something with a curved hemline, and you still wanted to cut it on the, cut it like this, but you want your stripes or your print to be a little bit more straight, you can panel your pieces. So if I were to cut this in half again, so that my section was a little bit smaller and then add seam allowances, so instead of having 4 pieces for my skirt, maybe I would have 8. That will help keep this straighter through this area. You'll still have a little curve at the bottom, but it's much less curve than with the whole piece connected, because then this piece would be, you know, tweaked to be on straight of grain as well, and, you know, all the way through the skirt. So that is an option. You can cut these pieces in half, add your seam allowance, and then your grain line could be tweaked a little bit. So for that piece. So it would be the same grain line as in this section, but over here, so it would look like this. No, it would look like this, your grain line. Sorry, that got confusing. So you could make your side seam on the straight of grain, which would be fine. And then that would tweak this second piece over this way. I may have made that more complicated than it needed to be, but that's how we can utilize border prints. Also, I want to show you, get creative with your border prints. I'm going to be doing my collar in the floral because I think that's going to look cool. And then on my sleeve, I actually have the flowers going down the arm. So I cut this upside down on purpose because I want it to look like the flowers are trailing down her arm a little bit. So play around with it. You can do what you want. The rest of the dress, the lapels and the collar are cut in the floral, and then I did the floral coming down on the sleeve pattern. But other than that, the only other floral that's going to be showing up on this dress is right here at the hem. So that is that. So let me cut these out and I will come back and we can go through all of our pieces. All right, so let's go through our pieces really quick so we can see what we've got. There's quite a few pieces that go with this dress. So first we've got piece 1, which is the bodice front. I've clearly done a full bust adjustment on here. I have done a full bust adjustment of 1 inch, which gives me an extra 2 inches across the bust, which is going to be absolutely perfect for her. That'll give her 2 inches of ease at the bust, so that'll be good. She does not need the extra width at the waist though. However, so normally I would shave that off the side seam, but because there's gathers here, I will just increase the gathers. I'll just make more gathers in between these notches to get it to fit, and that will be fine. So there's gathers there anyway, so I'll just have a few more. So that is piece 1. Piece 2 is our back bodice. Piece 3 is an elastic guide for the back. You do need 1/2 inch wide elastic. I've got some here. So 1/2 inch wide elastic. This is just the guide for how much to cut. Piece 4 are your collar pieces. You need to cut 2 of these, and one of those needs to be interfaced. So I've cut 2 collar pieces. They get cut on the fold. And then I have interfaced one. And you need to make sure and mark all your notches. Those will be important. Your notches and your circles. Those will be important. And for some reason, the lapel is not included on the front of the shirt. You sew it on, so we're going to go with it. But you need 4 of these. And again, I cut mine with, let's see, more of the flowers that are on there. So these, and 2 of them, your outside ones need to be interfaced. So I've interfaced 2 of them. You have to have 4, and the other 2 are not interfaced. So those will be actually the outside because the lapel will fall back. So this will actually be the inside, but you get what I mean. This will be the part facing the public. So that's piece 5. You need 4, and 2 of those are interfaced. Piece 6 is the front facing. You need 2 of those, and both of those need to be interfaced. Now, because I did a full bust adjustment, that lengthened the center front of the top, so I had to lengthen this as well so that that front facing matches. So I've got 2 of those. I have one of piece 7, which is the back neck facing. Again, I'm making view A, the complete view A sleeve, everything. But I have one in back neck facing, and it's been interfaced. Piece 8, this is the front band, little front section here. You need 2 of those, and you need to interface both of those pieces. So both of those pieces have been interfaced. Piece 9 is our sleeve. I did view A sleeve, and again, I have my flowers upside down on this because I wanted them to look like they were trailing down the sleeve. So that is piece 9. I did that intentionally. Piece 10 is your elastic for your sleeves. You'll need to cut 2 of these. So elastic this length, and again, it's that same 1/2 inch wide elastic. Then we have piece 11 and piece 12, which are our skirt fronts and our skirt backs. Again, I'm doing view A. I did shorten this by 2 inches because she's only 5'2". So there's our skirt pieces, 11 and 12. All right, next is piece 13, which is the front facing. You cut one of these on the fold and it gets interfaced. This will go to the inside of the skirt front, I'm assuming. Piece 14 is the back facing, and you've got 2 of these, and both of those have been interfaced. And then piece 15 and piece 16 are our hem facings for our skirt. You cut 2 of each of those, so there's 4 total, 2 15s and 2 16s, and all 4 of those pieces have been interfaced. It's going to give a nice little swooshy skirt, a little heft to the hem of that skirt. And then finally, we have piece 17. This is the ties that go around the body. Instead of cutting this out of fabric, though, I am going to be using this Petersham ribbon. If you notice, let me grab a piece of the print. She picked the color she wants. But there's kind of this color inside the floral that's here. So instead of using fabric, we're going to use this rayon Petersham ribbon. You could use grosgrain if you wanted. Really anything bias. You could even do, make your own ties with bias tape if you wanted. But I'll be using this grosgrain ribbon just for something different and a design detail that she decided that she wanted. So I'll just cut 2 of these the length of this piece 17. This is an unwieldy piece. And on the pattern, this piece is in 2 separate pieces. You have to line up the dots here on top of each other to make your one continuous piece. So just be aware of that. And then finally, the only other thing that we need is a 7-inch invisible zipper. Oh, and a hook and eye. I don't have the hook and eye in here. Oh, wait. And then it also says for a 1 yard of 1-inch elastic. What is that for? They all have, maybe that's for the sleeve. That seems to be kind of thick for the sleeve. I'll look into that. We'll get there into the pattern. Anyway, elastic, and then a hook and eye, which I don't have with me, and then a 7-inch invisible zipper to match your fabric. And there we have it. We are all set and ready to go. I will be back next week and we will start sewing. I'll see you then.